Protesters getting butthurt for Toronto Sun, pointing out where they might be getting their money from. Hi, I'm Brian Lilley, political columnist for the Toronto Sun, joined by a professional agitator, Warren Kinsella, fellow columnist. And Warren, you've been getting letters, as we used to say, letters. It used to be a real thing. We'd get actual mail letters, but you're getting them via email, but inundated in what appears to be a coordinated campaign by people who support the Hamas protesters in the streets of Toronto and Vancouver and Calgary and Montreal and everywhere else. Why are they so upset at you?
Well, they're not just targeting me, they're targeting our editor, Adrian Batra, and we're talking hundreds and hundreds of letters. And, we can tell they're a coordinated campaign. In politics, when I used to work in politics, we call it astroturfing.
Mhm.
So astroturfing is basically
It's
a
the opposite
lie.
of grassroots.
Right. So you're trying to give the impression of grassroots and hide who's really behind a campaign by making it look organic. But they slipped. So these hundreds and hundreds of letters have exactly the same message in the subject line. These hundreds and hundreds of letters, you make the same points and use the same language over and over. There's some tweaks in some of them, but to Adrian and to myself, it was evident that this was an AstroTurf campaign. What got them upset? The notion that everybody in the world accepts, from the Secretary of State to the President of the United States to you name it, which is there is a coordinated and well-financed and organized propaganda campaign against Jews and the Jewish state. And it's being financed, a lot of us feel, by Iran and Qatar, because that is the history here. And these people don't like that suggestion, and they're really miffed every time we make it. So we plan to make that suggestion as often as possible.
Well, let's talk about the campaign, because the campaign appeared spontaneous at first, and then you've realized that it is coordinated around the world. This is not just in Canada. You've run election campaigns. You have run campaigns to change people's minds, to change public policy. That takes money and coordination and professional skill. These posts on social media, especially Instagram, TikTok, they started showing up immediately. Like as the attacks in Israel by Hamas are still going on, you start seeing coordinated campaigns calling people out to rallies from October 8th on. My first was October 9th here in Toronto, but there was one the day after celebrating the resistance in Montreal. There were rallies around the world, and they've got snazzy graphics, they've got slick copy. That doesn't happen by accident, does it?
No, it does not. And one of the things you learn in politics, maybe one of the few things, is you can see when there's money in organization at a rally, at a protest, in a campaign office. You can tell when it's been professionally done. And that has been the case here. As you've just pointed out, and for our paper, I've talked to an organization in Israel called Cyberwell. And basically all they do is objectively track online anti-Semitic activity. And they found a massive surge in that kind of activity on the morning of October the 8th. So basically, while they were still collecting bodies of the 1,200 men, women, children, and babies who had been slaughtered, uh, the propaganda campaign was underway already online. And as you say, like, it wasn't just a slapdash effort. It looked like it had come out of a Madison Avenue ad agency
Mhm.
with slick graphics, focus tested messaging. By the looks of it, it looked like a professional campaign, and it was happening globally. And that's why a lot of us feel that this is a coordinated effort. And that's why when we've made that suggestion, the Israel haters have gone bananas, because they don't want that. They don't want that out there.
Um, you know, the idea that Israel, or sorry, that Iran or Qatar are funding this leads to a lot of questions about the groups behind the protests here in Canada, the Palestinian Youth Movement, Toronto for Palestine. Sadun, I think I'm saying it correct. I want to show a couple of images here of a Sadun banner that shown up at several of these protests. It showed up on Sunday afternoon at Yonge and St. Clair, where to celebrate the Jewish holiday of Purim, They went to an area with a large Jewish population and shouted about Intifada. But look at this banner with the AK-47 firing bullets. The butt of the rifle is painted like the Palestinian flag. And what does it say? Long live the resistance. That's not a peaceful sign, Warren. But this is one of the groups people are concerned about. It's been banned in Germany. I'm not sure if it's quite banned outright in the UK, but there are lots of questions about this organization around the world, and they continue to operate as a not-for-profit here in Canada. I think it's a valid question, or is money flowing in from outside of the country to groups like this or others?
And that's the point we have to emphasize. Samadun, I think that is how you pronounce it, as you pointed out, is here in Canada. It's in Vancouver. Its leadership, we are told, includes people who are supporters or members of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. In Germany, it is a listed terrorist organization. In Israel, it's a listed terrorist organization. It's been banned in Germany. And here it is operating openly in Canada, preaching violence as it did in Toronto on the weekend. Why has the Trudeau government and the BC government permitted this to happen? This is clearly, this organization is clearly a threat. They openly admit that they are an international alliance coordinating efforts not against just what they call the Zionist entity, which is Israel, but also against imperialism. So basically, every democratically elected government in the West. This organization is a threat. That banner makes that very clear.
Yeah.
But they're allowed to continue in Canada, and it's not right.
Well, on Monday evening, Justin Trudeau is going to have another event in Toronto, and there are calls again to shut it down. We'll see if it's with the Greek prime minister this time, not the Italian. We'll see if this event's able to go through. His fundraiser a week or so ago was able to go forward after the Italian PM event was shut down. But these protests, it's almost daily. And you've got to have money behind groups that are able to protest daily because people have to have jobs. Oscar Wilde's old line about socialism is the problem is you don't have any free nights. Well, these guys are morning, noon, and night with the protests. Somebody's got to be paying the bills, either for the organization or for the people to be there. This is nonstop.
And they are. And as we've reported in our newspaper, we just focused on one organization, the Plenty Collective in Victoria, BC, that was offering as much as $20,000 a month. They opened up their portal and I was able to zip in and grab screen caps, $20,000 a month to people to do precisely what you just described, which is show up at these anti-Israel protests. They'd show up with a shiny new van, it'd open up, they'd pull out professionally made banners and signs, they'd have food and drink for people, they'd have professional organizers wearing those orange vests, walkie-talkies, the whole bit. It looks, Brian, it looks like a professional political party that of the type that you and I have covered for years, except in this case, it's a campaign, a global propaganda campaign against Israel.
Well, as you say, they are upset, but we won't stop asking the questions or pointing out the facts. Warren, thanks so much.
Thanks, my friend.
Let us know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Share this on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.